is it? When something happens, it is always you three?
Believe me, Professor, I've been asking myself the same question for 6 years.
All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. So today we have a builds video for Wukong. The reason we're doing a builds video for Wukong is because this is eminently important to the currently ongoing free-to-play through, as it is one of the builds that there is a significantly powerful budget version of that can do Steel Path. And it's one of the builds that we're going to be going for on the free-to-play through, so I figured I should show the maximum version of it and also the minimum version of it, so people can get an idea where we're headed to and what it can be at its top end. For this, I did not come up with this build. This build originated over in one of like the Eastern countries somewhere at some point, and I heard about it for a while, and then we just made a version of it that I think is the best version of it. This is SlamKong. This is just Slam Attacks Wukong. The entire idea for this build is just that you equip your melee weapon, and whenever you go into your 2, you are considered to be in the air. You can hit the heavy attack button to exit your 2, and that slams you with a heavy slam into the ground. And in addition to that, that heavy slam can be canceled by, you guessed it, your 2. So you go into your 2, you slam, you go into your 2, you slam, you go into your 2, you slam. With that, there's not much else that Wukong is responsible for in this build. Of course, you can have a good weapon for your other clone to use and just shoot around, and that's all fine and well, and you can add that to this, but it's absolutely unnecessary. And of course, you can replace your 4th ability with something else, because you don't need your horrible Exalted weapon, assuredly. So we've gone with Nourish in this case, but there are many, many, many options, as the power requirements for this build are very, very low. So for that, let's first get into the full build here. So the full build here uses some weird stuff. Some stuff that maybe you literally have not even seen before, other than maybe the last time they were bugged, which is the Naira's mod. So Naira's Hatred and Naira's Anguish are clearly the most unique things in this build, and the only stuff that is important here is the combo of them, all of like the Naira's set bonus, which is the increases damage from slam attacks by plus 200%. That is its own multiplier, and it is very good. It does seem to be maybe adding more damage than it should be right now, but honestly, you can unequip these and it's not a problem, as we're going to show in a moment. But if you have these, and they're the common and uncommon, not too hard to get from the Narmer bounties, they do add a significant amount of damage. The ability duration and health certainly is good on Wukong. You will use both of those stats. And in terms of Naira's Anguish, it's parkour velocity, which is also not bad. Being able to move around quicker is also pretty good. So the main stats on these mods are certainly not a large hindrance to you, or really on any other Warframe that wants to use the weapon setup that we're going to be going over. With the rest of this, Prime Continuity for more duration, Narrow-Minded for more duration, we dump range because we do not need range for anything that we are doing on the Warframe. So we just have 200 and some duration, which makes it a nice and comfortable over 4 seconds of Cloudwalker for just going fast through missions. You don't have to recast it a million times. And with that, we're also running a ton of efficiency. Fleeting Expertise at rank 4 and Streamline at rank 4 is max efficiency. Can't go any higher than that, so leveling these up more won't do anything, and we'll lose some duration if we max out Fleeting Expertise. Probably don't do that. If you don't have an extra of either of these, that's a-okay. You can max out Fleeting Expertise if you like that better and replace Streamline with something else, but that is entirely up to taste. You will notice there's an Umbral Vitality in here with nothing paired with it. You absolutely can just use regular Vitality. It's not any different. Technically, I get Tower Resistance here, and I already had an Umbral form in this, so I threw in Umbral. Not a big deal. We're also running Precision Intensify. If you don't have Precision Intensify, or like if you have a maxed Umbral and you want to run that instead, it's less strength for your 4, but it's also still going to be just fine, and you're going to get more health out of it. So there's an argument that you can just run that instead. And then over here, I'm also running Energy Nexus. So the reason we are running Energy Nexus is because with that 3 energy per second multiplied by Nourish, our energy economy is perfect. It is actually factually perfect. We will regenerate energy as we are using Cloudwalker over and over and over, and we're never going to run out of energy, especially as long as Nourish is up. Nourish is also increasing the damage of our slam attacks very considerably with viral damage, which is excellent. And speaking of increasing the damage of that even more, our aura is Ready Steel, so we have 3x combo instead of the 2x for the heavy attacks, which is a significant damage increase for us. We're also running Molt Augmented for another 60% strength, also absolutely unnecessary. This just means that we're getting essentially a 250% strength nourish, which is quite good. And then Arcane Fury, which is on crit, which we're going to be doing a lot. 60% chance for 180% additional melee damage for 18 seconds. This is going to be online 100% of the time, and it's just a huge damage increase for what our plan is. All very good. And then our weapon of choice. So there are a few different weapons that you can use for this. There's a lot of things that work, but I think far and away the absolute best is the Archititron. I've seen a lot of people messing with like the Magistar and Karnan and stuff, and if you want the biggest number to appear on screen, yeah, the Magistar and Karnan probably has the literal biggest number that you can see. However, it also is just not as effective as the Archititron, and that is because mainly the Archititron always procs electricity on its slam attacks, making it similar functionality to the Zorus, except for it is a slam attack instead of its, launching heavy, although it is also a heavy attack still, so it's as if you are the Zorus headed towards the enemies instead. This is the build for that. It does use melee influence, which is incredibly easy to trigger. We are going all in on just electric damage. You could maybe do a dual setup if you wanted to. You probably have to drop Elementalist for that because we have a unique mod in here. But overall, Crushing Ruin, not important. You don't need this stance. If you only have the other one, this thing has a really low drop rate. Just whatever can get you to this build. You don't need a stance at all. You're just using slams. So you don't need to worry about this. Dispatch Overdrive. This is entirely just for the movement speed. If you don't care about the movement speed, or like if you don't have this mod or whatever, doesn't matter, who cares, get it out of here. Voltaic Strike. Borrow recently brought this, so if you didn't pick it up, that's unfortunate, because it's really, really good on basically all the influence melees right now. But it is also absolutely not necessary. You can get away with Shocking Touch, no problem. Voltaic Strike is just an improvement, so you can drop this as well. Seismic Wave, also quite a rare mod, but the plus 200% melee slam damage is its separate multiplier, so it is a very large increase to damage, but again, not necessary. Then we get to the stuff you absolutely have to have, which is Corrupt Charge, Shocking Touch, Pressure Point, at least regular, Sacrificial Steel, and ideally Organ Shatter and Melee Elementalist. This over here, this is the core of the build. If you have everything here, you're going to be just fine. This build will absolutely work for you. Also, if you don't have a maxed out Sacrificial Steel, like rank 8 is going to be absolutely more than enough for what you're going to do. In addition, Melee Influence. You don't have to use Melee Influence. First of all, if you just don't have it, this will work without it. It just won't, have all the benefits that Melee Influence has. There's actually a bug that makes it so a lot of the time you don't get the benefits anyway. Or, well, a potential bug, I should say. But this is good even at lower ranks. If you have a rank nothing Melee Influence, it'll still be excellent, and a rank nothing Melee Influence is pretty easy to come by, turns out. For that, this is the full build for it, so we're going to show what this does. Everything else in this build is really unimportant. I do have some shards on. I have 2 casting speed shards, which I think is nice and comfortable, but absolutely not required. And then I have a maximum energy is filled on spawn shard, which is just convenience. This was honestly for some other versions of the build we were testing before. In all likelihood, I'm going to take all 3 of these shards out and maybe slap in 1 more casting speed, and if I'm feeling really funny, I can slap in Primed Flow instead of that Streamline, and then put in a bunch of purple shards for funny reasons, just for dumb numbers to appear on screen if you really want to. But this build is strong enough that there's basically nothing that's going to live through the thing that it does to enemies. So these are Steel Path level 225. Well, right now we have just the Murmur group on it. We're going to do the Murmurs and the Orokin, and honestly, we could do the Sentience. It doesn't really matter what we do. Everything is going to die when we do this. So we slap on Nourish, slap into our 2, and slap. And they don't like it. You are extremely fast. You exit your 2 by slam attack buttoning, so like whatever your middle mouse click, whatever your heavy attack button is, you just move around and slam. And it's real good. You're very fast, very mobile. You can get up and around to places, do whatever you need to do. You can slam out of it at distance. You can do whatever. You can do whatever you want. Doesn't matter what kind of enemies it is. It's going to work on literally everything. Acolytes will generally be one-shot by this build, and they don't like it at all. Having said that, I know that I mentioned that the Naira mods are slightly bugged to give more damage than they probably should, so we're just going to take those out real quick, and we're going to do this again, just so you can see how powerful this is without the mods that are potentially a little stronger than they should be. And you'll notice that there is basically absolutely no real difference in what we are accomplishing. There was a slight bit more toughness on these guys, but really no actual performance difference that we're able to detect. So even if those are bugged to give slightly more than they should, that is not going to matter, honestly. It is not going to be a big deal at all. They add damage right now. They're supposed to add damage to this build as that is exactly what they say they do. So using them is not like out of purpose for what this build is, and if they got fixed to not math in the way they do just a little tad, they would still be very good for this build, and I would still build this way. With that, that's what it does at full power. Now, if you are a regular Wukong that is, you know, not yet farmed up, you run something like this. This is, of course, regular continuity, a rank 8 narrow-minded, Dreamer's Bond, which I know you have, and then in terms of survivability, we have just a regular Vitality, which still puts us at 1,000 health on Wukong Prime, to be fair, and Energy Nexus and Fleeting Expertise are the harder to get things along with Narrow-Minded in this build. Fleeting Expertise and Narrow-Minded, you're going to want to farm the Corrupted Vaults one way or another if you're a newer player, so you're going to need these probably before Wukong would even be done building if you're in a rush. Energy Nexus could absolutely be swapped out for Streamline until you get Energy Nexus, but it is excellent here. And this build is a like no forma, no nothing build, essentially, that you can just slap into regular Wukong, and is what we're going for on the free-to-play through. So you have that, no arcanes, no nothing. The Archititron notably is MR10, but it is currently day 7 of like my free-to-play account existing, and I have enough MR to be MR10, and so I assume that everybody can reasonably get to MR10 by the time you'd be even close to needing a build like this. For that, the Titron build is this. This removes everything that is more difficult to get. So you don't need the stance, you don't need the Voltaic Strike, you don't need the Seismic Wave. Those are all like the hardest things to get in this build. Obviously, you're not going to use the Exilus just for the utility at that point. Corrupt Charge is the Corrupt mod that you're going to want to get. Sacrificial Steel, this at rank 8, as I said before, is more than fine. And then Melee Elementalist, this is actually not very hard to get if you do the Jade missions, but you can do Jade missions on regular path and get this. Like, it's not very rare, so this build can more than easily, just on these 5 mods, farm this one. So I think you're going to be okay to get Melee Elementalist, and it is a significant damage increase. Then, of course, we're using a unranked Melee Influence for the purposes of showing this off, and this build is very, very budget. It is worth noting that this is also a no forma build, as it does come with a V and a dash polarity, so this is a no forma build that you can just slap in as a new player the moment you get to MR10. The Archititron is very easy to make, and it is super, super good still. So we're going to put this against the Corrupted at first. Obviously, this is going to do less damage, and we do switch to Roar because it's a little more budget. If you don't have Helmet, that's also okay. You don't need Roar in order to make this work, but it does make it considerably better, and you can see like this is significant damage. Obviously, these are enemies that are considerably above what you're normally going to see, even on Steel Path, because they are level 225, but this is going to more than easily kill anything that exists on regular path. Really no problem at all. We're also going to show this against the Murmur, for those of you looking to do Netra Cells, which is technically regular path content, but this clears this really, really well. And you can see with the Energy Nexus, we do use a little bit of energy, but assuming that the enemy drops an energy orb every once in a while, and you're killing Xmas and stuff with this, you'll have a pretty good energy economy overall, and Dreamer's Bond helps with that. Against the Murmurs, which is, you know, again, this is above what you can expect to see in Netra Cells at the very least, and honestly, even in EDA. You go into this, we'll do this with no Roar, just so you can see how it performs. These enemies are weak to electricity, so if you are looking to do this build against them, you're going to get a little bit of a damage bonus, and they are not going to like it. So, it's pretty good. It is an excellent budget build. Wukong is kind of back for, you know, a really good build to have around. He does have to have a weapon for it now, of course, but there's a couple different choices for that, not just the Archititron, although I do think it is far and away the best for it. And it's just excellent right now. For that, I am going to be playing this a lot in the free-to-play through, and also, like, I've played it quite a bit on stream already, so if you want to see a lot of gameplay for this, where I'm, like, smashing Acolytes and one-shotting them and doing all kinds of nonsense for it, that is going to be over on the Twitch, over at twitch.tv/Brozime, but I did want to make sure that this build had a video, so that people just knew of the build, because it's going around right now, and I think this is the best version of it, and also for those of you that are new to Wukong, or, like, don't know what to do and you're a new player, this is also a great thing to have access to. With that, I'm going to see you guys on the stream, and also probably tomorrow. There should be more Warframe videos coming. There's going to be more free-to-play-through stuff, more things happening, all that good stuff. Goodbye!
All right, we're back from TennoCon, and the Streamathon is going to continue. But
There will, of course, I will try and have there be videos as well as the streamathon at the same time if I can. Also, thank you to the $10 patrons: Athean, Alex Parnham, Arbiter Daydream, Benuven, Fruta Salazar, Canalatra, Club World 3, Dylan Dworsky, Athrain, Hafan, James Harson, JC4 Science, Josh, Luzanth, Malik X Williams, Mark Smith, Mikakel, Minty Ginja, Michta, Nerve, Ruby, Sanyu, Skur, Sharp247, Tamrielic Wastelander, Tester ZWP, The Coupon of Death, Tomeworm, Victor Palmer, Waifu Wars, Wowdado1, and Sarah Fear, and of course all of my other patrons as well. It is incredibly appreciated for all of your support. But yeah, we're gonna try and keep the videos a little bit more regular while the streamathon continues. And of course, we do have a free-to-play through coming soon.